Good evening. I'm Howard Vicini, and this is My Country. Tonight, we're going to talk about the fires in Southern California for a second week. I was caught off guard, as many other people in the Bay Area were, when I got news that friends in San Diego County were being evacuated to the Qualcomm Stadium, where they were put up for 3 days before they were able to return to their homes. Thankfully, all of the people in Southern California I know were able to return to their homes intact, but for many others, that is not the case, sadly. Obviously, there also have been a huge number of businesses that have been impacted. So tonight, I have with me Dr. Ted Chan from UC San Diego. He's the head of the emergency services there, and he is the head of the Board of Governors for the San Diego Foundation, an organization that raised substantial amounts of money for recovery after the 2004 Cedar Fire. Welcome, Dr. Chan.
Thank you, Howard. And can I make just one correction to
Sure.
that bio? I'm the chair of the disaster board for the San Diego Foundation.
Okay, thank you. Could you give us a little historic background about the foundation, when it was formed, and about its work up until now?
Sure. I'll just back up for a second. The San Diego Foundation is the community foundation down in San Diego. It was formed in 1975, and it really is a broad-purpose community foundation.
I see.
In 1991, the board of the foundation felt it prudent to actually set up a separate board to respond to regional disasters in San Diego. This was after the Oklahoma City event, as well as 9/11, and the feeling was, the community foundation has an important role to play in responding, recovering, and rebuilding after these disasters. And the foundation board felt that it was prudent to actually get a board of individuals prepared for such an event if it were to happen in San Diego. And when they set up the board, I'm sure they didn't think we'd be active as much as we've had. This is the second time we've had a major disaster down here since 1991, as you know.
And one of the people I talked to from the foundation told me that you had just finished distributing the funds from the last fire just a week before this fire began. So your work has been rather continuous.
Exactly. As a foundation, we support nonprofits that are going to support people and other community activities. We were first activated after the 2003 wildfires down here, and the bulk of our work was, over the year or a couple of years following those fires. But as you said, we just gave out the most recent grant to efforts still recovering from the 2003 fires just a couple of weeks ago, just before this new wildfires occurred. So we have been fairly active, and we are active again, as you're aware.
Now, do you give these grants directly, or are you doing this through other organizations?
Right. We don't give grants directly to individuals or families. What we do, and what the foundation does, is we support nonprofit agencies that do much of the work in terms of providing support to families that have suffered during the disaster, or organizations that have suffered during the disaster. In addition, we also support efforts to, if the environment is harmed from a disaster, as it has occurred in these past two wildfires, we've supported environmental groups whose efforts were to sort of get the environment back in shape in these areas that had significant impact from the disaster. Other types of things we support are the Humane Society in terms of providing animal welfare needs during these wildfires. As you know, many animals were, even domestic and wildlife were harmed during this disaster. And we also support those agencies that are really helping the most vulnerable populations in our communities, those including the elderly and some of the other communities that have less ability to recover from the disaster and the wildfires that we just had.
Now, if I understand this right, of the money you raise or grants that you're given, you give back out 100% of. You're working without any overhead. Is that correct?
Well, in the 2003 wildfires, that's correct. With the 2007 wildfires, we are going to, as much as we can, approach that. We cap our overhead at 5%, but fortunately, we've actually had a major grantor provide us the operational funds to do all the work we do. So we can very closely say that just about anything that monetary donations to us now, nearly 100% will go completely out for efforts to respond, recover, and rebuild from these wildfires.
And can you name some of the organizations that you've supported in the past fire?
Well, we in large measure we supported a community response team that actually coordinated much of the rebuilding following the 2003 fires in the rural areas. We supported scholarship funds for students who were displaced from the local high school as a result of the fires in 2003. We've supported a number of environmental groups who went back and actually helped efforts to reduce landslides and mudslides after the burned areas went into the rainy season. We put out just about $3 million worth of grants to all these nonprofit organizations that were focused on rebuilding and recovering from the last wildfires in 2003.
Some of your money was also given to organizations like the Red Cross. Is that right?
We in fact, we just had a meeting with the Red Cross today, and we have a very good working relationship with them. The Red Cross is a great response agency. They're there at the time that the first responders are there within hours and days of an event like this, and we have a very close working relationship with them in terms of the transition, really, from responding immediately to a disaster to the time period where you're really focused on recovering communities and rebuilding lives, which can take, as you know, months to years following an event such as what we just had last week down here.
Well, my point to laying out these the mechanics of your organization, if you will, is to bring us to the point of talking about how organizations in the Bay Area might partner with you, raise money to support your work, and just to give those people a clear picture of what they're contributing to. But now let's talk more specifically about the need you have and what conditions are like in San Diego County right now. As the head of major hospitals emergency services, you must have a very clear picture compared to most people about how things are going now.
Well, things are, for much of San Diego, things are returning back to normal. The air is much better. The fires are either controlled or contained for the most part, but there are a lot of displaced communities in both rural and suburban areas of San Diego. And what we've found is, as a foundation that's focused on rebuilding and recovering, that you have to really get people out into the field to see exactly what the needs are. They differ from neighborhood to neighborhood as to what individuals need. Some neighborhoods have good insurance and just need the direction and organization to recover, but they have the financial wherewithal to get back on their feet. There are other communities that have less of those types of resources available, and that's what we have. We have 30 of our staff people now out in the fields in the major areas of the fires, trying to determine exactly what the needs are. Right now, what our initial grants have gone really towards getting our fire agencies that have lost a lot of resources and equipment fighting these fires back up as quickly as possible. So many of our initial grants have been targeting fire agencies and response agencies to get them back into a position if, God forbid, another Santa Ana is actually going to blow in over this weekend. If something else were to start up again, they'd be in a position to do what they need to do. But as time goes on, our foundation is really looking to do a community-wide assessment, and is actually in the process of doing it now to determine needs, determine which Indian tribes, Native American tribes need the most help, which don't need as much help getting back on their feet, and for example, and that sort of thing.
Yes, I think you've touched on a very important point here. Looking at the major newscasts on ABC, CBS, CNN, there has been so much focus, visual focus, on these wealthy homes, both in Malibu and in San Diego, that people, I think viewers could get the impression that these are only wealthy communities that have been impacted by this, but there's certainly areas of San Diego County that I'm familiar with that are not in that class, and the recovery efforts in those areas must be much more difficult.
Right. That's exactly right. I think the media, may have focused on these very dramatic video clips of, $1 million homes going up, but there certainly was large areas of rural community that was impacted, and lower income community, and one of our larger Indian reservations, Native American reservations, was greatly impacted. The majority of those living on the reservation had lost their homes, and so getting resources to those individuals that really need it, that's what our focus is, and that's why an assessment of the needs, community by community, is so important for a foundation like ours to do, to make sure that whatever dollars we spend are spent wisely and most effectively.
I'd like to point out to our viewers that the website for your organization is on the screen right now. Could you tell us a little bit about who makes up your foundation? Who are the leading individuals?
Our foundation, we have 30 staff, and we have a board of very prominent civic leaders. I should say, a number of our board members were greatly impacted by this wildfire, and have actually been very active in working at the foundation, getting things going, not for themselves, but for the community-wide response and how the foundation responds. And along with those staff people and the board, the disaster board that I serve on has a number of prominent community individuals as well, and that come from a wide range of backgrounds: law, medicine, like myself, accounting, and that sort of thing. If you go to the San Diego Foundation, sdfoundation.org website, you'll see links to information about our foundation and our disaster board, as well as you'll have links to our report of our response, recovery, and rebuilding efforts during the 2003 wildfires. We put a report together a couple of years ago after that event, and how the lessons that we learned from it, and I think it's illuminating as to what a foundation can do, a community foundation like ours can do after an event occurs like this.
Yes, and I want to tell you that I was very impressed with your website. That's why I actually contacted the foundation for this interview.
Thank you very much.
You've done a very good job of documenting what you're doing and what you've done in the past. Last week when the Red Cross representative was here, we talked about the need for blood donations. How how is that? Are the blood banks in the San Diego area getting back up to speed, or are they still closed?
No, they are getting back up to speed. There always is a need for blood donation in communities, and during an event like ours, there's a greater need. But they are getting back up to speed, and things seem to be getting back to normal for them.
Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I really appreciated your time and the information. For activist groups or individuals in the Bay Area, I strongly recommend this foundation as a way you can help. With the little jolt we received a couple of days ago, we are reminded again of our own vulnerability. I think it's important that we help out as much as possible, community to community, reach out to people when they're in need, because we know how many people respond when we have our disasters.
Right. Everybody's been incredibly generous, and we certainly have appreciated it down here. And I want to thank you for allowing us to come on and speak with you.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night.
Okay. Well, again, that website is the SD for San Diego, sdfoundation.org. Now, for the remaining couple of minutes, I would like to return to a topic that I spoke about a couple of weeks ago, and that's a new initiative launched called munioutrage.com. That's the website where we're organizing it. It's a collective of riders, Muni riders, who have found the service to be less than satisfactory, and we're looking for ways to document those problems in the hopes that it will provide the data that is needed to get the problems addressed. This is not a Muni bashing effort. It is a data collection effort. And so if you go to the website, again, munioutrage.com, you find that there's a link there for a reporting form in which you can report any incident. You can also compliment some Muni driver if you find one that's been particularly helpful. All data is important. But the important thing is that this data can be collected from wherever you are, whenever you choose to do it. If you're going to work and you're carrying your PDA, link to our form and fill it out at the time. Too many times we're impacted by something that happens on Muni and we let it slide because we go home, we go to work, we forget about it, we forget the bus number. MuniOutrage.com website is set up specifically for you to be able to get the information to us as quickly as we can, and we're passing on not your personal information, but the report about your experience. We're passing it directly on to other transit activists and to the media so that they can get a real sense, whether they're riding Muni or not, they can get a real sense of the problems that are being encountered in real time. And hopefully this is going to put pressure. I was rather surprised, perhaps a little dismayed, to see our mayor bragging about the improvement to Muni with his State of the City address this week. I think that's a rather remarkable thing given the state of the buses that I have been riding on a regular basis this summer. Perhaps there has been some statistical improvement, but it isn't really translating into a comfortable experience for most people. And as I've noted on our website, a bad experience on Muni on the way to work can be trickled down all day to coworkers, to employers, to the clients you have to meet. It is an important part of the fabric of city life, and it's time that it gets the attention it deserves so that the problems can be fixed and we can return to a transit system that I remember from years ago when we really had something to be proud of. I think that there's still some problems of a labor standpoint that are going to require much longer periods of time to work on. I think it would be very important, very wise to somehow get more of the workforce living in the San Francisco neighborhoods that they serve. Because right now there's very little connect between the drivers and the people. If you have to answer to your neighbors about the vehicle you're driving, I think you're a little more inclined to care about the experience on those buses. I hope that the drivers who are out there that perhaps could be listening can see that we're reaching out to you as well. We need input from everyone. Going to a few community meetings, going to a few union meetings if you're a driver isn't enough. We need to come together and really build a database of facts that are not tainted by politics or management goals, things that really we can really grasp and focus attention on specific problems that need fixed. So please, again, visit munioutrage.com and leave your comments. I look forward to hearing from you. Next week, we'll be talking about the tender conditions in the Lake Tahoe area. Thank you.